So basically what we're going to be designing is this bracket. It's called the C132C, not sure why. But what you want to take into consideration is looking at the drawing, you plan out how you're going to design it before you actually start designing it. There's a few different ways you might enjoy doing it. You might do 3 basic blocks, shelling them out and cutting out the holes as needed. Or you may come up with a different formula of making each U-shaped channel, shooting it out and connecting it together. So it's up to you how you want to do this. Both will work. I believe everything is specified on the drawing. If there isn't, you can assume things because things like these happen. Not all of them are exactly precisely created. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the 3 blocks, rectangles, extrude them out in position as shown. Then I'm going to shell it from the underneath. And I have to still cut these slots here, so I'm going to have to extrude a rectangle or a square that goes all the way through. And I subtract out that, including 2 cylinders that are only on one side. Notice that they're not all the way through, so keep that in mind. Another option would be to create one side only and just mirror it over to the other side. That might be the easiest way of doing it. The faster you are, the better you are, the more efficient you are. So basically we open up in our AutoCAD 2014. What we want to do is start out with drawing a rectangle. Based on the drawing, it is going to be 6 inches high by, the width's not there. Is it really? So basically it's 103 plus 11 gauge on one side, 11 gauge on the other side, which comes out to be, so that's going to be 1.27 and 6 inches high. So now we can go back to our AutoCAD rectangle. We start at any point on the screen. We move our mouse over. We can type in D for dimension, or you can select the dimension option at the bottom. And we type in the length, which is horizontal first, which is going to be the 1.27, and the height is going to be 6. And that should create and click somewhere on the screen to establish its location. That creates a rectangle. We can do the center rectangle too. So we just do a rectangle. We type in a D again. This time it's 2 inches by the same width, 1.27. You select your new rectangle. You use the move command, and you move it based upon the midpoint of this rectangle. If your midpoint does not highlight, what you need to do is go back to your O stamps. You right click on the O stamps and you make sure your midpoint is active, and make sure your O stamp is active also. You can also turn off your grid if you don't like using your grid. So now you select the midpoint of the rectangle and you select the midpoint of the vertical rectangle. That creates these 2 pieces. You can hold shift and move your scroll button to rotate 3D, because we can jump into making this an object 3D. To do that, we go to our extrude command. You can type in extrude, like EXT for short, or you can go to, if you don't have your menu bar, what you want to do is hit that down arrow here and it says show menu bar. Then I go to draw or modify, draw, modeling, extrude. Or if we change it from 2D drafting and annotation to modeling, you'll have that in your area right here. So we're going to do extrude. We're going to select both rectangles. I'm not going to play around selecting one, and the height is 1 inch. So that creates that. What we need to do next is we can union the part, but we actually don't want to do that because we're going to mirror one side to the other. So if we mirror it, we're going to create one big the width, the 2 inches width inside will be double, but we can also adjust this before we do that. So I'm going to take that rectangle that created in the middle, and I'm going to decide to move it back in the X coordinates. But before I do that, looks like if we're going to start working in 3D, we might as well change our setup to look more like a 3D convenient setup. So if you guys are working your draft and annotation, I recommend switching it from drafting and annotation to 3D modeling. That will give you the new tools that are used for 3D design. Here you'll have a gizmo. It's set up as a move gizmo, so anytime you select an object, it won't show until you have it actually in shade form. So let me show you menu. So it's 2D wireframe right now, my visual style. If I have it in conceptual or any other shaded form, then my gizmo will actually activate every time I select it. If it's 2D wire, it won't show up. So keep that in mind. If you don't see it, it's because of that. So you change your 2D wire to conceptual, and at that point, selecting an object shows you a gizmo, which is this X, Y, Z with the colors and so forth. Which this gizmo allows you at this point just to move the object. There's other scale, there's rotate, and there's no gizmo if you don't like the gizmo. What you want to do is select the object, that small rectangle. We're going to use the red arrow because we're going to be moving it based on the x-axis. We're going to click on that arrow. We're going to move our mouse left to right. Should be exactly moving horizontally. If not, make sure you have ortho on. Actually, it's not. It should be okay, but keep ortho on too, as always. And we're going to move it 1 inch back. So what we did that because we're cutting the whole design in half. To do that, there's 2 inches. We're going to cut it back 1 inch. And then what we can do is union it. So we want to put those two together to be one piece. Right now it's 2 pieces. I usually recommend not to union objects until you're 100% certain. And then even then, I request that you guys make a copy of your drawing before you union it together. Because once you union it, you won't be able to ununion in an easy way. So it's usually best to have a copy just in case. You'll see that further on when we have more complex 3D objects to do. So to union, you go up here, right next to, it looks like 2 shaded circles. They're intersecting. And you select both objects, and you click Enter. That creates one solid object. From there, we're moving on to shelling. To shell this object, what you want to do is select the shell command, which is actually, they removed it from there. We go to solid. So from your home tab, you go to your solid tab, and you go to your shell tool right here, which is a box with an empty square inside. So we shell by selecting the object, and then we select any surface that we want to remove. So it's going to be an open area. So the bottom, and you want to do one side, which is this side only. You don't want to do the other side, the back, because it only has a small cutout, not the entire thing that's being shelled out. So we do that, we click Enter, and then we type in the shell offset distance, which is the 11 gauge, which is 11.96. If you like, you can do 0.12. That's fine. We're not gonna, because sheet metal, depending on where you get it, will fluctuate in thickness, and this might not be exactly what they'll offer you. So 0.1196 or 0.12. And you click Escape, or you click Enter and Enter. That shells out the entire object, as you can see. The only part that's missing is we need to cut that slot here, and we need to cut these two circles located on our PDF as shown here and here. So we do that by actually starting to draw on this surface. To do that, we need to change the UCX. There's a few different ways we can change the coordinate system by using these tools here in your home tab, or I can show you the easy way of taking your X and Y and Z right here. You select it, you select where X is pointing because you want that to be vertical, and you just rotate it up. Make sure you have ortho on, otherwise you start getting weird angles, and that's not going to be good because you can't go back from that. I mean, you can, but it will be very difficult. So you just rotate it up or down so X and Y are facing you as you face the exact location where you're going to create that square. Make life simple and easy. What I'm just going to do, I'm going to just trace over this opening that I have by using the rectangle command. So I use the rectangle command, select the corner here and the corner here, and I do the extrude command. I go all the way. Doesn't matter how far you go because we're subtracting this material. So we do that, and then we go to our subtract command. So the subtract command is actually located right under union. Makes sense? You union, then you subtract. There's your subtract. You select the object you're subtracting from first. That's where it's specified. So subtract selected solid surface regions to subtract from. That's the key word, is from. So we're subtracting from this, and it's going to ask us, do we want to select any more? No, it's like, look, enter, and then the regions to subtract. This region is what I want to subtract, and I click enter. So that creates that slot that we were looking for. Luckily, my X and Y coordinates are in the right position because I switched them, and I can design where the circles go, which I have specified on the PDF, 1/2 inch from the bottom, 1 and almost 1/4 from the side. The diameter is 1/4 inch, and we can just extrude it out and subtract it. I'll show you guys that next. Alright, I kind of rushed through this, and I realized that this should be open too, and this other side should be open also. So I'm in quite the dilemma here, but I can fix this. Either I can undo, go back, but that's going to be a lot of work, so I'm going to instead create a rectangle on this side. Again, I have to change my UCX. So to do that, I select the Y this time and rotate around. So I'm facing the surface I want to draw on, and I have X and Y in my coordinate system. From here, I'm going to create a rectangle that matches that of this rectangle here. Or you can use the convert entities, which is right up here, or they call it the extract edges. You can select that, but that's going to be a little bit more work. I would recommend using the rectangle. If it was a more complex shape, extract edges would be your best bet. We use the rectangle, we make an exact copy of the rectangle being seen here, and we're going to offset it down, offset it by the 11 gauge, which is 0.12. So another trick is you may not be able to grab onto it. So what we want to do is select it in the beginning, and then we offset. And then we type in that. And then we select which direction we want it to offset, and it creates this box. The only problem with the box is it's not all the way down, like so. So we would have to pull it down from midpoint to midpoint, or from endpoint to endpoint, and it creates this rectangle that we need to extrude and subtract. Or if you're lucky, you can try press pull, and that removes it directly, automatically. So we have something like this that's cut out. We have the bottom that's cut out. We have the side, as you can see. Not sure why there's an extra line there. Shouldn't be there. Anyways, a piece like this. what we need to do next is create the holes, the circular holes over here at the sides. So we're going to go to a UCX, or you're going to go to this view here, change our coordinate system so that X and Y can be easily seen. Let's see if I can move that. Might have to rotate a little bit to drag the correct coordinates. From there, we create a circle that is going to be specified distance away from this corner. So we're going to use reference lines. We're going to create a line. We're going across 1.24 and we're going up by 0.5. That creates the center point for that circle to be drawn. From there, I go to my circle command. So just right here. You have to find out where that drawing is. I must have drawn it the wrong direction. Oh, there it is. If not, I can always draw the circle at the bottom. Type in D for diameter, 0.25, and I'm going to select it and move it up using the Z coordinates for this, and it's going to go up 0.5. Before I do anything else, I'm going to make a copy of this on the other side. To do that, I just mirror it over, and so I select the object. I use the mirror command. Where's it? Mirror command. I use the midpoint of the rectangle, like so, and I just create a line, placing that other circle on the other side, as you can see. From there, I can do press pull, where it's going to cut away the material needed. So I can just select the circle, not all the way through because it's only cut from one side. Oh, at this point I didn't subtract it, but I can use the subtract command next. Press pull that. So I end up with something like this. From there I use the subtract command. I select the object to subtract from, and I can select both items to subtract, creating my holes. From which point I have this whole assembly complete, and all I need to do is mirror it over using making sure that my X and Y coordinates are at the right view. Rotate that around like so. So now if I go to my top view, I can see X and Y, and I can mirror it over. So I use the mirror command once again. This time I'm going to use the end points here. If this looks longer on your drawing, that must mean that you still have the 2 inches, which is okay. Just mirror it from the center. I only have 1 inch here, so I have to mirror it from the end, giving me the 2 inches space. From which point I select both of these and I can union them together, like so, creating one big piece with the holes in the right location. And yeah, that concludes doing the 3D part. At which point later on in the course we'll go back to this probably and put the dimensions. We'll do a flat shot, top, front, side view. That way if somebody needs to manufacture it, they'll know exactly how to make it. Yeah, that concludes that video.